Hello, 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 and welcome back to Free Tours. I'm Chris Sandeman, and it's my great pleasure to announce more and more reopenings of our free tours across the network. And I'm here today right now on our first week back doing free English language tours of the Big Apple of New York City to public groups, which is very exciting stuff for us. So I wanted to come online really quick and just make that announcement to folks, and maybe we'll say hi real fast to the group that's getting going. I'm just gonna check to make sure that it's also been, for those who know, a little while since I myself did a live stream. So I'm just gonna quickly make sure that I've got my chat widget up and running. In case anyone out there says hi. Oh, Michaela, na? Alles schick, alles schön. Hi, Hale. Sorry that I've been a stranger. I think that actually I don't need to put this. Oh, maybe I do. I'm just seeing if I actually need. Yeah, perfect. Good. They're showing up normally. Hale, I have. Hey, Nikki, Ross, Nikki. Hey, guys. Hey, Reza. Hi. Hello, Taran. Good to see you again, guys. So, yeah, it's been a weird couple months, and I am okay. Yes, okay. I have been. Hey, Brenda. Hi. Good to see you. I've been hiding out in San Antonio, Texas. Yeah, guys. It's been tough, like in tours with the pandemic, and we've been really fighting to get back open again without a lot of cash in the boat, or in the tank, so to say, of the tanker, which is us. Whereas in the U.S. and a lot of states, like, it's been a tourism boom for them. For us in Europe, it's been tough, and now it's finally starting to come back. Things are finally starting to open back up again, and we're starting to crawl back out of our bear caves, hungry, starving, ravenous, in fact, and we're opening again now. And it's been a struggle for the company. For me personally, hasn't been the easiest thing, but in the meantime, I've done a lot of different stuff besides just like working to keep the company going and keeping it afloat. I've done a whole sort of strange jobs. I worked at FedEx for a little while in the last months, loading trucks at 4 a.m. in the morning so packages could be delivered. I've done some side consulting work. That was great, really happy for that. And I learned to be a cavern tour guide, all about stalactites and stalagmites and dissolution and how caverns are made in Central Texas. I studied up to be a ghost tour guide for San Antonio, Texas, learning all about the Alamo and the supposedly haunted hotels around there. In fact, when I'm back to San Antonio, I will give you guys a live stream ghost tour of San Antonio myself as a pseudo expert guide on that now. But right now I also just wanted to, clearly I wanted to check in with you guys out there who are the live stream fam. But I also wanted to just show that sure enough, even on a quite breezy and cool day right now, we're down at Bowling Green, and we are looking at what is none other than our fourth English language free tour happening over here, although we're actually doing it in Spanish right now. I didn't ask the folks if I could film them. So, but you can see that things are starting to come back again. People are showing up. We're waiting to see what the Omicron 2.0 wave is going to end up meaning for the U.S. and whether we're going to get a spike here as well. But this is our free tour meeting point in New York, and we are running tours, English tours every day right now, and Spanish tours on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So enough of that, and here I am. I've caught you on a kind of a not the most beautiful of days because it's quite cloudy and a little cool, but it could be a lot worse, I promise you. Just closing some apps because I just got a notification that memory on the phone is a little low. I'm not on my regular stream phone. I'm on another phone because I couldn't find one of those little sticky things to change the SIM card out. But yeah, here it is. So I'm back in Brooklyn, actually, not right now physically. Right now I'm in Manhattan where our free walking tour starts, but I've been back in Brooklyn, dog sitting, good old little Coco and Nino. Again, those two puppies, if you remember from all the tours that we did around Brooklyn when Ryan was visiting us and such, and making sure that the pups are well cared for and loved for. So yes, Nikki, Brenda, Hale, Michaela, Marta, live and well, alive and working towards really well. So a lot of hope and confidence for this year. We can see it in our bookings. Numbers are improving. People are booking for forward into the months to come. And as long as we don't have another variant, knock on wood, right? Then we should be okay to be able to start back up again, full steam going into the summer. So that also means that, hi all of you future tour guides. Yeah, we're looking for new guides. We're bringing people back out of the woodwork. A lot of the guides who've been working over the last couple of years, they've gone on and done something else now. And we are looking for historical walking tour guides. We're looking for bartenders. We're looking for people that are servers. We're looking for airline cabin crew. We're looking for people that like to be around other people. And if you are one of those folks, then you know what you got to do. You got to email us and let us know. You can email info@neweuropetours.eu. You can email tours.eu. We'll be making it happen. A call with you and Ross later on today, I hope, or sometime this week. So FaceTime together, yeah, I got to do at least one live stream here in Manishma. Bar, I was thinking about you the other day because I started watching this like Israeli-made TV series about this like woman who is like a spy who infiltrates into Iran. And I mean, although that being said, Reza, it's complicated, right? It's complicated. Politics. Got to leave them out for these days right now because too complicated. So yeah, well, speaking of that, some of you guys might notice that we've done a couple of live streams and also in Moscow. We've removed those from our YouTube channel temporarily out of support for people and the resistance to some really awful stuff which is happening over there. Dai! Hey buddy, good to see you, man. Really happy to see you out there. Dai, we got to talk soon. Because we are full force now with our PNP program and recommending and working with other free walking tour companies all over the world. So if you're a free walking tour company someplace, we are now promoting other free walking tours besides the ones that we do on our websites and helping connect smart travelers with great tour guides all over the world. So I guess Japan is still kind of closed though, right? Unless you're an Olympian. But, well, anyway, Dai, we should talk. And Bar, are you going back for live tours? Miss you guys. It's been like, so as you guys know, there's a ton of work that goes into either organizing with guides to do live streams and as well as doing them myself. For guides that are doing live streams, it's as long as someone knows how to like hold a gimbal and do a live stream, there's no one that I wouldn't work with and do live streaming with. It's just a question of being in touch and saying, hey Chris, can we use your platform to live stream some tours? Yeah, of course you can. Just let me know. Chris@neweuropetours.eu. We're ready to go. And as far as me doing them, it's I kind of became a little dissatisfied with myself at some times. And maybe I'm a little bit hypercritical, but like there's such a big difference between doing a tour where you know the tour, like you know the whole thing and you're speaking from memory, versus using notes to help you do the tour as you go through. Now, when you're doing a tour in front of a live group, you can't really have notes. You gotta know it, you gotta know the stuff. And I found that the amount of time that was going into preparing for tours to like be able to do something that I thought was of real quality without notes, it's just way too much time for, you know, when there's competitive things that I need to be doing, like paying my rent, unfortunately, and, you know, working at FedEx in the morning. But what am I saying here? You know, I certainly for San Antonio now, I feel like I can do some decent tours. And in New York, you know, I know my stuff. Well, hell, thanks. I really appreciate Hale's support there. Speaking about, you know, doing the tours even with notes, it was still good. So Brenda, for sure we're going to do San Antonio around the King William district. Used to be the Kaiser Wilhelm district, but they changed it in World War I. It's amazing, actually. Tons and tons of Germans end up leaving Germany in the 1840s, the 1850s, and then 1860s. First because of like food shortages. You always talk about the potato blight in Ireland, but there was a potato famine, a potato blight also in Germany, as well as like a wheat blight. And a lot of Germans end up immigrating towards central Texas. And so San Antonio has all this incredible like German history. I've actually joined a German singing club called the Beethoven's Männerchor. And we gather every Tuesday night with a bunch of like old German guys and other people who don't even like read or speak German, but they sing in German. And we sing German songs, you know. Schöne Freude, gute Funken, Töchter aus Elysium. Like, it's cool. It's interesting. So we're going to do a wander around the Beethoven Männerchor building facility. They've been there since 155 years as this like German society in San Antonio, Texas. So we're going to check that out for sure. And we're going to do a deeper visit towards the Alamo as well. It's going to be a little bit controversial for Texans because, as it turns out, the history of the Alamo, much like all history written by the victors, isn't entirely accurate at times. It's very pro-America what we talk about when we share the Alamo story, but the reality of it is a little bit different. And we're gonna visit that and see that as well. And then, of course, ghost tour around San Antonio. You know, it's really interesting. I've discovered that 46% of Americans believe in ghosts, 54% don't. And in the UK, are you ready for this? 51% of Brits believe in ghosts and 49% don't. So more people in the UK are ghost believers than in the US, which is really interesting. So you know, I'm not sure if I believe in ghosts or not. Like really, I think I'm open to the possibility of something. I certainly, at times when I'm alone in a big, dark, scary house that's not my own, I believe in ghosts more than in other moments, like middle of the day or something. But anyway, so we'll definitely go and visit that and check it out as well. So, Nikki says just doing a Q&A type live would be fun in the location. True. Yeah. No vaccine status Q&A. Ugh. Gosh, that's actually interesting that you were saying that, Nikki. This morning I was listening to Anthony Fauci, good old Dr. Fauci, here on the New York Times Daily podcast, and he was talking about how you know, we usually look to the UK to see what's going to happen in the US when it comes to waves of COVID. And that we're usually 1 to 2 weeks behind the UK. So right now with like the Omicron 2.0 in the UK, we're kind of seeing what's going to happen in the US. And like he was saying that he's really hopeful on one side because we've just had such a huge spike, so many people ill in the U.S. in the last 3 months. I had COVID myself for a second time in January, and hopefully that'll create a fair amount of immunity for the U.S. But at the same time, the U.S. only has about 65% of all eligible people vaccinated, which is just far and away behind what you see in the U.K. or in continental Europe. So it's still figuring it all out. The only thing that we can hope is that our governments don't close travel down. Di, you also had COVID. Hey, has anyone out there not had COVID yet? Right? I'd like to see, if you've not had COVID, just say me. And if you have had COVID, just write down how many times you've had it. So I'm just gonna see if I can't type myself here real quick. And I'm gonna add on my side, hold on a second. Where's the one that lets me write things? No, God, that's it. Enter text for chat, 2. So I've had COVID twice. Hopefully that'll show up in the chat that I just tried to put it in, but I don't know if I did it right. Yeah, there we go, Sanders too. Nikki's had it once. Ross never had it? Lucky devil. Hale's never had it. I can't believe it. Hale, it's amazing. Yeah, but you mask and you distance. That's smart. That's smart. But, with Jim out there guiding, there's interaction, although it's outside and, and the rest of it. But I'm really happy to hear that. And Di writes on Facebook, hey, it's good that the U.S. doesn't close for traveling, but Japan keeps closing. Yeah, Di, there was in the same podcast I was listening to about COVID, it actually talked about the sanctions in Russia and how that was affecting the price of seafood, of sushi, of sushi grade fish in Japan, and that there was a real increase in cost. That it had been like, in Tokyo, that you could get 2 pieces of uni for 650 Japanese yen, but then now with the prices skyrocketing, now you get 1 piece of uni for that 650. So I'm sorry to hear that you guys are seeing price surges over there. So Brenda, you're right, don't tempt Providence. You've not had it. Sorry, I'm knock on wood again, and hope that you guys stay well. You can see behind me, if you guys remember that movie Men in Black, this is the secret headquarters of the Men in Black right over there. It's not actually, it's actually a Battery Park tunnel building. So, oh, Alba, hi. Yeah, sorry that I've been a stranger, but you can see where I am. Back in the Big Apple, back in the city. Di writes, yes, salmon and uni getting expensive. Laugh out loud. Yeah, exactly. Right? That's what I heard. That red salmon, that Japan gets about 75 or 73% of its red salmon. A lot of it's crab and a lot of it's uni. About half of it's uni from Russia. So, but gosh, well, you know what, Di, I appreciate you and everyone in Japan who are making the sacrifice to make sure that sanctions are imposed. To help discourage what's going on with the Ukrainian people. What's going on in the Ukraine, the attacks, the murders. I mean, this war it's friggin' heartbreaking. It's like, gosh, come on, give us a break already, huh? Can we just have some time off from despair? Alba, your hometown. Indeed. Should we walk around a little bit, guys? Should we just do a little? I mean, I don't want to say goodbye to you now that I've said hello to you. So just trying to think, what should we go and take a quick peek of? Got Battery Park. We can't really see much out into the harbor, so we're not going to go down because it's foggy. It's a foggy day today. And as I was saying to some travelers who are visiting us right now, it's actually the foggy days that we should be thankful for here in New York City. And the reason why we should be thankful for those foggy days is that it was on a foggy day in 1776 that the Continental Army was saved ultimately, and and George Washington was able to escape across the East River with the remnants of the Continental Army that had not been killed or captured during the Battle of Brooklyn, or the Battle of Brooklyn Heights. Now, we've done that visit to Brooklyn Heights and talked about the lines of soldiers, and how the British ultimately found a back passage on an old, kind of animal sheep trail, and were able to outflank the American revolutionaries. Didn't go so great for them, but ultimately in the dead of night, Washington has his men muffle the horses' shoes and take all their buckles off and loads them on small craft to travel back and forth across the East River, ferrying them to Manhattan to be able to make them escape. But by 7 in the morning, he had not yet finalized all of those transports, and the sun came up, and he thought the British frigates in New York Harbor would see them as they crossed over the river, and luckily there was a massive fog, and that fog covered the East River so that Washington could finish ferrying his troops across to Manhattan to be able to escape up into White Plains, and then winter in Valley Forge, and ultimately escape the British onslaught. And Washington himself, around 7 in the morning, as the fog was rolling across the East River, he's the last man on the last boat to cross. And I just stopped here just for a quick second because this was, at one point, George Washington's office. Number 1 Broadway, right? Number 1 Broadway. This is where he set up the first White House after he's sworn in as the very first president of the United States of America in 1790, just around the corner from here. Oh my goodness, Jeanette. Well, look who it is. Oops, sorry about that, guys. Good to see ya. Hi, Jeanette. Hey. Well, yeah, well, that's the old crew. We just need our Eastern Canadians to show up, and we've got a full house. So, walking by right now, you guys have been here before, Bowling Green. But it's always kind of interesting to come back and see these little fence posts. This is an original fence from 1771. It was originally put here to protect a statue of King George III, an equestrian statue. And here on top of the fence used to be like little crowns that were there. The revolutionaries then sawed off because they didn't want any symbols. Oh, Tage, there he is. I was just calling out to you, and you heard me. You heard me mentally. You heard it in your head. You knew, right? So yes. Good to see you, Shannon. Where are you? We're waiting for you. We just need you to pop up. So, right. Well, so while I'm in New York and we've got spring coming, hopefully, we actually have some sakura trees starting to come into bloom here. Maybe we're going to have to do a quick sakura visit. Thank you, Alba. I appreciate that. Tage, thank you, brother. I missed you guys too. I miss you all. I've just been. I needed to recharge again, I guess. And seeing these types of things help me recharge. The Bulls Ball slide is back. Go ahead and polish them brass balls. There's just nothing better than seeing people lining up to sit underneath the part of a big metal bowl that would, potentially take a poop on you. Ross, oh, there you are, buddy. Hey, Ross, what's going on? And here we've got the flagpoles, which are memorialized to none other than the original great American holiday of celebrating the evacuation of all British troops from just from the American colonies. Of course, plenty of British troops at that point still up in Canada. This is the Evacuation Day pole. Although actually, originally, the real flagpole that was the famous part story of Evacuation Day would have been over here. Yes, Di is right. That's right, Alba. Yes, it is the Ukrainian flag, guys. Good call. That is the Ukrainian flag flying proudly next to the American flag, showing our support for the Ukrainian people against, and support for their stand against the Russian invasion of their country. So, yeah, my story just isn't as good as that flag, to be quite honest. But the original Evacuation Day story would have taken place actually over here, where the Alexander Hamilton U.S. Customs House building, today the Museum for the American Indian, it was here that you first had Fort Amsterdam, which was then taken over by the British, and they changed it to Fort George, and then it was taken back by the Dutch, and then it became Fort Amsterdam again, and then it was taken back by the British, and then they changed it to Fort George, and that's where that flagpole, it would have been. Let's cross over here, and we'll just walk up a little bit up Broadway because, it gives you guys a sense of what's happening. So Broadway, as we remember, is the 11-mile long, longest road in Manhattan. It goes all the way from the base of Manhattan all the way up to the Bronx. And it was the old Lenape Native American hunting trail at one point. It would allow the Lenapes to come down Mannahatta, the island of rolling hills, Manhattan, and come down to the base where you had amazing oyster shoals. If you guys remember that history. And of course, it also becomes known as the Canyon of Heroes because it's along this part of Broadway that we would have our ticker tape parades. Look how foggy it is. You can't even see the Woolworth building. You can't see anything up there. It's all fogged out. Yeah, thanks, Ross. I do remember how to use the gimbal. Hey, listen, just so you know, Nikki just volunteered you to be tour guiding in Edinburgh and everywhere else. So get ready for that. We're gonna have to get you on that. And Michaela, there's a lot of places that if you're ready to gimbal live stream, like I don't think people have to be professional guides to show interesting things about what's happening on the street. So hey, Tage, I just saw that you were in Fort Lauderdale. Did you do another cruise just recently? Was that what was going on there? Let me know in the chat. Feels like cruises are back up and running. So why don't we go this way? I was thinking about heading down Exchange Place and approaching the New York Stock Exchange from that direction, but instead we're going to walk up towards Trinity. And why don't we do this? Why don't we go over to Trinity Church, and then we're going to head over to the 9/11 Memorial, and then we'll say goodbye over by Calatrava's Oculus, and I'll head back over to Brooklyn and give the dogs a quick walk. Alba's heading back to Barcelona in April. Lovely. And and Tage, you were visiting your best friend in Miami. Nice. Woo! It's windy here, guys. All right. Here we go, Trinity. Not the first Trinity, rather the third Trinity Church to have stood here. First one burned down in 1776 in a fire that takes place. And people aren't really sure what happened. Who lit the fire? How did the fire get started? Now, there's a lot of conspiracy theories around it, and the U.S. is famous for conspiracy theories. So how did the fire of New York get started in 1776? Washington's troops have left the city. They're fleeing north away from the British invaders. And he writes to Congress asking if he can burn down New York City. And Congress, early Continental Congress, they say, no, you may not burn down New York City. We're hoping that you're going to reoccupy New York and kick the Brits out at one point. But that doesn't happen anyway until 1783, finally at the end of the war. But meanwhile, a fire begins and ravages a large amount of what was then New York. Basically, like Canal Street South was where New York was back then. And the British immediately blame the revolutionaries for having started the fire. They round up a bunch of would-be possible arsonists, and that's when Nathan Hale, America's first and sadly worst spy, gets rounded up, and he's got a document on him from George Washington himself. And General Howe says, look, are you a spy? And Nathan Hale's like, yeah, I am a spy. Just admits it and kind of speaks right to it. And Howe had a lot of sympathy for Nathan Hale because he saw him as an incredibly brave guy. But ultimately, as a spy, the rules of war, Hale was executed the morning after his confession to having been a spy. So, and the city, whether it actually was the Americans that burned down New York in 1776 or not, hard to say. New York's population in 1774 was 25,000 people. By the end of 1775, the population had dropped down to just about 12,000 people. But in 1776, there were only 5,000 people left in New York because they knew the British were coming. And so all of the British loyalists, the Tories, they'd all gone either back to England or just out of New York. So you only had, by the time the British occupy New York, only about 5,000 people here. Lots of empty buildings, lots of empty houses, and that's part of how the fire is able to spread, because there weren't people there to put the fire out any longer. Go figure. Right, Tage? The population dropped that much. 20,000 people had left out of 25,000. New York was almost empty at that point. And you relied on bucket brigades to be able to put fires out. In fact, during New Amsterdam's time, one of the Dutch laws was that if you were a homeowner, if you had a property, you were required to put 3 buckets of water on your front porch or your front steps every night when you went to bed, just in case a fire started in the middle of the night. People could run out and grab buckets from all over the place. Well, when this happens in 1776, the British start grabbing buckets, right? And they see that the bucket handles are just broken and coming off. Or as they try to fill the buckets, there's holes drilled into them. And that was part of the I don't know so much whether or not this is by accident, this fire. Part of the other problem was that the volunteer firemen in New York in 1776, many of them had joined Washington's army. So they ended up leaving the city, so you didn't have even like the semi-professional fire guys out and about. All right, well, let's flip this. We've just walked through Zuccotti Park. This is where the Occupy Wall Street protests had happened. And it's actually interesting because this is not a public park. This is a private park that's open to the public, but it's actually part of the offset rules associated with this building, which used to be U.S. Steel's headquarters, not hiding the fact that it loves steel at all. You can see all these kind of steel pieces, like, looking like steel rebar kind of segments. And this park is associated with that building to create open space around it as part of the laws passed in New York. Actually, after that building had been built, the Equitable building. That building was so bulky and cast such a big shadow, they required buildings to have this kind of setback later on that is most famous for, well, some of our real skyscrapers like the Empire State Building, which has that wedding cake style, kind of where it kind of goes in and then up, then in and then up. That in, up, eventually creating space for light and air and everything else to come on through. Why don't we stay on this side? Yeah, Tage. The Tage writes that the Ukrainian fighters are incredible. Yeah, you know, I don't know if I can talk about it. It's just too heartbreaking, but I did learn a lot about Javelin missiles recently, and I find Javelin missiles to be fascinating. That their ability to be fired direct or kind of like shot up in the sky and arc down, and that they have two explosive charges in them. One, the main explosive of the missile, but then and then also like a first charge that detonates the anti-missile detonating armor on Russian tanks. So like the Russian tanks are designed to try to stop the missiles from being able to penetrate and detonate, but the Javelin has a explosive to counter that explosive to get past the armor to then explode the tank. And you know, we can only hope, much like the Americans did during the War of Independence, or the Revolutionary War, all we can do is we can kind of hope that that like a war of attrition, that eventually, you know, the Americans didn't beat the British. The British gave up on the colonies because it was so darn expensive to keep fighting that war. They were just like, it's not worth it anymore. Fine. You want to go fight the Native Americans on your own without our help? Do it. Go for it. Good luck, guys. And they stopped fighting because, you know, it was costing them a fortune. We don't think for a second, Americans, that the British were defeated by our expert army. The British were like the biggest army in the world at the time. You know, they landed 32,000 troops on Staten Island in 1776 before the Battle of Brooklyn. So if the Ukrainians can hold out and make it expensive enough for the Russians, then hopefully. Got a lot of spray blowing up here over the edge of the 9/11 memorial. Of course, this one and then the other fountain area, this footprint representing the north and the south towers, and where their foundations once were. And looking up here, we can see the One World Trade building, 1,776 feet tall, although we cannot see the top of that building right now because it is completely covered in cloud as you look up. 1,776, of course, 1776, the year that the U.S. declares independence. The building designed by David Childs, but these footprints, Hale, are more the idea of Daniel Libeskind, the Jewish American architect and sculptor and, you know, artist and such. He'd actually designed the winning suggestion for what we would build here, what the replacement structure or structures would be. And in the end, it didn't create enough floor space. Ooh, whoa! I'm getting rained on by the fountain wind. I don't know if you guys can see it all blowing up here. So Libeskind's building wasn't kept, but the footprints here, the fountain footprints, were. And as you can see, the nearly 3,000 names of those people who lost their lives on September 11th, 2001. 800 of those people being in the South Tower, and about 1,600 being in the North Tower. And as we walk along, you're going to see right here a rose stuck into Paul A. Tekmaya. Paul sounds like he is of German origin, and today must be Paul's birthday, and that's why there is a rose there for Paul. I'm just going to give a quick clean to the camera, looking a little wet. Hopefully that's a little bit better. Yeah, looks a little bit better. Okay. It is that person's birthday today. That's right. So yeah, this building over here is the museum, the 9/11 museum. Hale, great question. We have two fountains, and I'm going to walk over from one fountain to the other fountain. which is over in this direction. And that'll also bring us closer to One World Trade itself as well. So the height of One World Trade, when you come and you visit it, the very, very top up at the peak of it is 1,776 feet tall. But the roof of the building, so say before you have the spire, like the antenna, if you will, that pops out the top, is just over I think it's 1,368 feet tall, which is the same height as the World Trade Center Twin Towers, were previously. But they added the extra kind of spire, that spike, that antenna, to bring it up to 1,776 feet, again, because of the patriotism associated with that. And here we are now coming up to the other footprint, the second footprint. When the Twin Towers were finally built and completed in the early 70s, I think the North Tower was done in 71 and the South Tower was done in 73, they had a heck of a time filling all of the space inside of the towers, the commercial real estate space. So much so that the Port Authority, it's a New Jersey, New York joint agency, they ended up having to take a lot of the space inside for themselves because they just couldn't rent the rest of it. And it wasn't until a Frenchman who was a tightrope walker, actually, at those 1,300 plus feet high in the sky, strung a tightrope from one tower to where the other tower was over there, and walked across high up there in the sky, with police on either side of his tightrope, trying to get him down, him dancing, laughing, lying down on his tightrope eventually. And much like King Kong made the Empire State Building famous and helped then rent out the real estate space, this tightrope walking incident ended up creating a lot of fame for the Twin Towers. And then they did get very much rented out, which was part of the problem for the towers. Because when the planes crash in to the towers, 8:46 in the morning, I think, is when the North Tower gets crashed into, and then 9:03 that morning is when the South Tower. Don't quote me on that. Google will know the answer. Sorry, internet, if I messed that one up. The North Tower's staircases were completely demolished, so there was no escape route for people to be able to make it down the stairs, and that's why you end up having the larger loss of life in the North Tower. But at the same time, the plane, when it crashed into the North Tower, it crashes much higher up in the building. So there were only 17 to 20 floors above where the impact of the plane had been. But those people, unfortunately, were unable to escape in any way, shape, or form. And it's heartbreaking to listen to the 911 emergency calls, people trapped in the North Tower calling the fire department asking for rescue, and there being absolutely no way, nothing that they could do. In the South Tower, however, there was one staircase which still allowed people to be able to make it out. And hence why less than half as many people from the South Tower will unfortunately perish in when the building finally collapses. The South Tower collapses after, I believe, just 56 minutes or so. And because the plane had crashed into the South Tower lower in the building, there was a lot more tonnage of building above the impact zone, and that degraded the structural integrity of the building much faster with that extra weight. Whereas the North Tower took over 100 minutes before it would finally collapse. But once again, like I said, people unable to escape. The tragedy of it as well, of course, is that 411 emergency rescue workers will perish during this attack and the building's collapse. And of those, 343 of them were firemen. Because unfortunately, due to a technical failure, when the police helicopters can see that there is molten metal pouring out of the towers because of the heat of the jet fuel and computers and paper and everything else that's burning inside the towers, they can see metal pouring, like lava flow pouring out. They realize that it's not long until things are going to collapse. They make an emergency call and tell people, telling the emergency workers to escape, to get out, and they do. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, the technical failure is on the firemen's radios, and the firemen never get the word that it's time to evacuate the building, that the buildings are coming down. So they're still going up the stairs as the building's about to collapse, and hence why so many firemen perished that day. In fact, 343 firemen that we lost on September 11th, 2001, that's more than all the firemen in New York's history who died before September 11th, 2001. So Ross is right. Ross writes, the Firemen's Memorial for 9/11 is also nearby, I think. In fact, why don't we go over there next, Ross? I think that's a great idea. And Hale asks, how many buildings around them were destroyed? Amazingly, several of the other World Trade Center complex towers buildings were also destroyed. And that's one of the things that has unfortunately led to some conspiracy theories, because some of those buildings don't come down until well after the original the two Twin Towers collapse. So it creates a question as to whether or not it might have been, pardon me, a demolition. But I don't believe that even for a second that was the case. What happened, and the reason why the building looks like it demolishes and comes down so in that particular way, was that the Twin Towers were actually this really incredible architectural design, and as is One World Trade. But the Twin Towers were designed such that the exterior of the building themselves was the structural support. Usually you'd have like big support beams and columns running throughout a building, but that took up a lot of floor space. So it was actually the walls of the Twin Towers, the outside walls, that were providing all the strength. And then every floor plate across the, on each floor, the floor plates being about, I think it was like 53 inches, if I remember correctly, in thickness. They were hinged to the walls of the Twin Towers themselves. And it was the heat, ultimately, of the jet fuel burning that causes those hinges to start to melt. And New York had already had planes crashing into buildings before. 40 Wall Street had a plane crash into it in 1946. The Empire State Building had a plane crash into it. The Twin Towers were built to withstand plane impacts. They knew that could happen. They knew it. They built it to withstand that impact, that force. They hadn't planned for the fire. Didn't think about it getting that hot. Yeah, Hale, let me show you the space around me as I'm talking so you can get a feeling for it. But they didn't think it could get that hot, and that's what then causes those hingings, those securing points to melt. And as the floors come away from their securing fasteners in the walls, the structural supporting walls of the Twin Towers, and they with all of that force, that energy of the downward momentum of the plate landing on the next floor, and those hinges also already have been weakened from the heat of the fire. The building just was not designed to be able to withstand that amount of downward kinetic energy and tonnage of weight, and the floor plates start to give way one after the other, after the other, after the other. And that's what looks like demolition in a way, because it's like a controlled, it's blowing up as it goes. But no, it's because the floor plates were simply coming away from each other. The South Tower falls faster, it collapses faster than the North Tower. And then you have to ask yourself, well, why does it take less time for the South Tower to collapse than the North Tower? And the answer is that the South Tower, once again, the plane had crashed into it at a lower level. So there was more tonnage above the weakened infrastructure space. And that meant that it accelerated the collapse. Whereas the North Tower, where the plane had hit higher in the building, had less tonnage above the weakened infrastructure spot, and therefore it falls just a couple of seconds more slowly. Alba writes, inside Trinity Church is very touching. Firefighters from all over the world leaving badges and hats. And Alba is absolutely right. There is a church right around the corner from here where the firefighters would use it as like a memorial space. But Alba, I think you might mean St. Paul's Chapel, perhaps, which is by all means attached to the former Anglican Trinity Church being the main church and St. Paul's being the subsidiary church. Yes, okay, great, Alba. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, St. Paul's unfortunately right now closed, or else I'd walk you guys up there and take a quick look at it as well. It's closed right now because, I don't know why, I think it's still COVID related, to be honest. And Tage, it's I think you mean when you say the Greek. Oh, you mean this Greek Orthodox church over here. Yeah, absolutely, Tage. Good knowledge on your part. And that's this church over here, which was badly damaged in the collapse. And you can and it is. They've built this covering on the outside of it now. The original church kind of below and inside of it, and that's up there. But let's go over to Ross's shout out real fast, and we'll go take a quick look over at the memorial specifically to the 343 firefighters, New York's bravest for sure. And take a look over there. So here's building 4. Actually, over there, you kind of see through the trees. If we look directly to the right of One World Trade, to the right here, that's building 7, if I get that correct, and functioning, building office space. Tried out a ton of different and new building techniques when building One World Trade. Actually, there wasn't code written into the New York Department of Buildings building code to kind of speak to what they were doing at One World Trade. So they ended up preempting the code, the architects and engineers, kind of figuring out what was going to come in the future. And New York City ended up taking a lot of their design specifications and just making that the new Department of Building code specifications for skyscrapers going forward. Jeanette writes, are you going to be doing tours yourself, Chris? I actually will be. I will be doing a tour tomorrow, a free tour of New York City, my very, very self. So, and here we are. You guys have seen some of it before. Some of you have seen it before. A plaque here to the 343 firefighters who perish. This is donated by Holland and Knight, a law firm, and actually one of the partners at Holland and Knight, himself a volunteer fireman, had his wife helped raise money specifically for those people who were suffering from the toxic smoke that had something got you guys' way. The toxic smoke and dust that was irritating people's eyes from the collapse of the buildings, and the eye drops weren't being effective enough to be able to protect people, to help them recover. They were still irritated, their eyes were suffering, and she asks if they could not secure ice packs, right, and ice to make ice compresses to help cool people's burning eyes and faces. And for a few months, ice manufacturers donate all the ice that they need to be able to do that. And then they kind of, the ice makers are like, guys, we're going to go broke doing this. So Holland and Knight raises money to be able to make sure. You hear the New York subway down below us. This is just real quick. Always want to say hi. So Holland and Knight raises money to pay for the ice for the next few months during the initial recovery phase, which lasted about 9 months down at Ground Zero, clearing the space and cleaning up the space. And at the end, there was still money left over in the ice fund, so to say. And this is where that money went to, was building this plaque. May we never forget. Oh, you guys are fine. Thanks. It's so great to see all these people back. It's just been so empty for so long. And right around the corner here, Engine Company 10, Ladder Company 10, and a small extra little plaque to these guys, the very first ones to make it into the Twin Towers, because they were right around the corner. Of course, they were easiest, the closest fire department to the Twin Towers. You can see on their engine there, still standing, defiant. It's you know, from lesser men you might think it was pure bravado, but from these guys, it makes the hair stand up on your arms to think of them running out of this building that we're standing right in front of, and then running across this street to start with the rescue effort for those inside of the buildings. It's powerful stuff. All right, I'm gonna walk you across. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I can feel it right now. Like, it's just, it's so messed up, but also like so amazing that human beings sacrifice their lives to save others. It's an amazing thing about our species. Whoa, wind! Hello, gimbal. Woo! Uh-oh. Okay. Whew. So we're walking down Church Street, we're walking up Church Street, if you will. There's the famous, or infamous, if you will, Century 21 department store. It's still closed for COVID, so don't plan to come here yet. Over here, pretty cool. Have you guys seen these before? This is an Amazon Go shop. You go into the shop and you check in with your credit card, and then you just take stuff and you put it in your bag, right? Sorry, Amazon Go. You put it in your bag and you walk out of the shop, and they've got like cameras and computers in there that watch you as you do it, and then they just charge your credit card based on whatever you took. You do not talk to a cashier. You do not go to the cash register. You leave the shop, and as you leave, you're charged. It's pretty neat. Yeah, exactly, like a Tage right. It's Woolworths. You have to ask the person you something from the, you know, like off of the display rack behind the counter. We're going to steal things. Yeah, people don't even have to stuff and go. I can see myself getting, I think I had a little bit of lag there. Sorry about that, folks. I'm not on my regular stream phone, as I said. Stage should be a little bit better now, hopefully. This will give you access down underground into the PATH station and into the subway as well. Really cool space. I wonder if we can quickly say face coverings are required. We're going to walk in without one because I don't have one on me. Santiago Calatrava. Nope, no connection. Heading back out again. Let's get signal back again. Come on, signal. Come on back, signal. Come on back, signal. Where you at, signal? There you are. You're back, signal. I can see that you're back. Sorry, I tried to duck in there real quick. And hell yeah, you're right. It's the PATH station, as well as I think the C is down there. And Hale asked, how do you not have a mask on? I have one in my back face. New York has more or less. And as I've been double vaccinated, boosted, heading towards my next booster in a couple of weeks, and had COVID in January, I just feel really protected right now. So originally these spindles that kind of come off of the Oculus building were supposed, and they were supposed to actually be able to extend and retract. They'd go back and forth, and they were too heavy. Like Calatrava, infamous for not really getting his designs always right, and some of his construction efforts needing significant repairs to the point where he's been sued as an architect for it. So that's actually like fiberglass, I believe. Not fiberglass, but what's the word I'm looking for? Different, lighter weight construction material. Anyway, not metal, that's for sure. But here you can also get a good sense of how this building, Building 7, looks a lot like One World Trade. And this is sort of like the little test to make sure that this is right next to it. Here real quick and cross Church Street, name of Trinity and also St. Paul. Entrance to St. Paul's Chapel over here. I don't know if there's a better way to say it. Was the New York in 1776. It is the, oh, come on. It gets better. Come back to me. Transmission's unstable. Getting a little bit of lag, but we're still transmitting. I'm going to wait to start telling about important. All right, and looks like we are back, and we've got good signal again. So during the fire of 1776, this building was not damaged. They end up saving it. Again, saying this is the People's Chapel, the People's Church, connected to Trinity, but Trinity was for the rich folks. To go to church there, whereas here. And it is a Georgian style architecture, and what you're going to see is a combination stone, which would have come from I think it's Portland, Connecticut, but north of New Haven, south of Hartford. So those are the kind of the brown bits of it. It's the brownstone, and then the grayish bit is Manhattan schist. Manhattan schist being what what we have underneath us. It's the bedrock, which allows us to build tall buildings on top of it. This building modeled after St. Martin's in the Fields, which is none other than a London-oriented church right off of Trafalgar Square in Westminster. So, and this is where, as Alba correctly pointed out before, this is where the firemen were able to rest during the recovery efforts. And then also on the there were panels placed all along this fence throughout here. And those panels ended up collecting notes and tokens of well-wishing and support from New Yorkers, Americans, and people from all over the world who would then pour out their hearts to what had happened here, which was ultimately, of course, the most devastating and most effective terrorist attack of all times. So this portico here that hangs out over the building was designed so that, of course, people could get out of their carriages and not get wet as they'd come through, but not the main entrance. This would have been the back entrance to the church. The main entrance was on the other side. And up here, this appeared in 1790. Church built in the 1760s, but in 1790 they added this wooden carving of St. Paul looking out over New York. So, well, I'm going to take Alba's advice and I'm going to go and get some hot chocolate. Maybe I'm not going to head all the way up to Italy, up by kind of like in the 20s, because I'm down here in just about to hit City Hall Park, and it is blowing a little bit of a gale. So it's time to say Auf Wiedersehen for now. It was good to check in. I only was going to just say hi to the start of the tour, but I feel it. I'm feeling good. I'm going to come back again. I'll be back very soon, and we'll keep on talking. So Alba, Hale, Tage, Nikki, Rob, Jeanette, guys, Bar, eventually Shannon when you see it. It's really good to see y'all, and we'll make a point of Jenny Jean with a Purple Heart. I missed that before. Jenny Jean, I'm so sorry. You can see the Purple Heart now. Mwah, thank you. I'll see you guys in the very near future. We'll do something else from New York for sure. I'm here for another week. And then I'm going to be back to in San Antonio, and I can impress you with all the knowledge that I've gained about that city founded by the Spanish in New Spain in 1718, with its 5 beautiful missions. And yeah, ghost stories, German immigration. It's where they invented the saddle horn, nearby where the lasso was invented as well. And I'll tell you the story about how the Spanish sort of own gold themselves by ultimately giving the Apaches and accidentally and unknowingly coming up this way. Oh yeah, Alba, that's a great idea. You can go get some New York pizza. I went over the one on Moore Street, the original one, with some friends a couple of days ago, and it was delicious. But you know what? For $23 for a personal sized pizza. Thank goodness I wasn't paying. Thank you, by the way, to Tina and Apple for picking up the check that day. It's expensive. $23 for a pizza. Well, I don't know. I'll get a slice. You can still get $1. It's gonna happen. Guys, mwah. Take care. I'm gonna go get warm. Ooh, it's cold. Ciao for now. It's Chris Anderman signing off. from the Big Apple, Manhattan, New York City. Be well.